7:34. I want to talk about this White Sox player, Adam Laroche, who is. This is a really interesting story. He's quitting baseball because the White Sox won't let him bring his kid to work into the clubhouse. It's kind of how it. I mean, But think about it. You think of baseball. What do you think? You think about kids.
Yeah,
kids in baseball. The ball boy being hey, the ball boy is so and so's kid, and he's here every day. But this, they said he can't. He's got a limit the number of times that he brings his son to work, and he says, "All right, well, I'm retiring."
So I want to read the quote from the team's general manager. But what I don't understand, you just brought up a good point.
By the way, the kid is 14 months old. So he's got it's tough. He's
true.
like he'll set him on the lap of like the
Are you making
catcher.
that up?
He's making
and
that
they'd be
up.
like, "Hey, take care of my kid. Well, you just give him this bottle." And then he goes out and
This is a PR nightmare.
the kid's 14 years old.
14 years old.
Yeah,
I'm
this is
kidding.
going to be a PR nightmare.
So
I think you might be right, Christine.
the general manager, it's Williams, something Williams. I can't find his name. Ken Williams, right?
Ken Williams, yeah.
I thought he was very honest in his quotes here. And to be honest with you, I would tend to side with him, I think. He says, there's been no policy change with regards to allowance of kids in the clubhouse, on the field, in the backfields, etc. This young man that we're talking about, Drake, everyone loves him. I in no way want this to be about him. I asked Adam, listen, our focus, our interest, our desire this year is to make sure we get ourselves every opportunity to focus. All I'm asking with you to do is dial it back a little bit.
Dial it back.
The kid was coming every single day.
Yeah.
And I totally get, like, if your dad's a baseball player, you want to go to the park, you're around, your dad's a superstar, you want to be with all these superstars, I get it. But if it is every day, I do think that's a lot. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. Just dial it back.
And I'm hoping it's not like a situation where the kid is, like, sitting there and, dad's batting, and all of a sudden the kid's like, hey, Dad, choke it up a little bit there, will you? Daddy-o, choke it up. Or maybe saying to, I got to tell you, if you'd change your grip on that ball a little bit, I think that curve would come in a little better. I just, or is the kid is he just there? And all he's really saying, the manager's saying, just dial it back a little bit.
He said, he also said, I don't have the exact quote, he also said, he's been here 100% of the time. I would like it to be somewhere less than 50%. He said, pick a number in between.
Somewhere in between.
Let's pick a number.
All right,
and he's saying, I'm quitting.
Where are we on this one? I hate to say it.
I don't think the GM's being unreasonable.
I hate to say it. I'm with the White Sox on this one.
Yeah, and interestingly, he's willing to quit, Adam Laroche. And listen, as a new father, I get this is a valuable time. The kid's 14. You're a baseball player. He wants to make the most of that time. But in retiring, he's going to give up like $13 million in guaranteed money this year. He's serious about how he feels about it. I mean, to throw away $13 million?
The problem is, here's a quote that you tell me where in this country, this is the GM, where in this country can you bring your kid to work every day?
Right. And there's some leniency. I mean, I think he gets it.
I mean, right. We're
it's a
talking
baseball
about baseball
field
here. And yes, but and the other thing, shouldn't the kid be in school anyway?
Yeah, that's a great question.
He must be getting homeschooled or something.
Very interesting.
And does this go on only during spring training, or should it go on? Does this happen all year long, I wonder?
Lots of questions here.
He's learning his life lessons in the bullpen.
I do think it's probably only during spring training because the travel schedule these guys have, there's no way the team's footing the bill to ship his family all over.
Right.
But again, what you said, why can't they work a deal where LaRoche Jr. becomes like the third bat boy?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah. However, if the GM is getting into this, it's because there have been complaints.
A lot of people have been,
And there's probably more to this story than they want to release. And, maybe for all we know, he could be the nicest little kid in the world. But he could also be a punk.
It's probably like that.
Get this. Listen, you're paying me millions of dollars, and I got to deal with this punk over here every 10 seconds. Get this kid off the bench. That's, that could be in the front office. There could be some players complaining.
Yeah, I don't know if this is happening, but could you imagine the kid is like, "Hey, Rook, I want a red Gatorade. Go get it." Right? He's telling the other players.
You just don't know. Listen, we've all been to the grocery store. There are punks out there.
Yeah.
And punks begin at a very early age. I just have to tell you. I mean, they could be in training wheels, and they're still punks. David Swerdlick is an assistant editor at the Washington Post. Yesterday, the president nominated Judge Merrick Garland as the replacement for Antonin Scalia. And this is probably going to go nowhere. David, good morning. Thanks for coming on. And what do you think? Where does this go?
Yeah, good morning, Bill. Yes, and we have all been to the grocery store, haven't we?
We have. Oh, Lordy.
We're not talking about our kids, of course.
Okay, no. Anyway, Supreme Court. It's kind of crazy, right? I mean, this is sort of the culmination of 7 years of this Congress and President Obama, sort of being at loggerheads, right?
Yeah.
President Obama says his duty under the Constitution is to nominate someone for the vacancy filled by the late Justice Scalia, and he's still president for another year. His term is 4 years, not 3. The Republican-controlled Congress says, look, our role under the Constitution is to advise and consent, and our advice and consent is we're not even taking this up for discussion.
Yeah.
So that's where we are in America right now.
And I mean, what would be wrong with, because this is a political strategy, what would be wrong with giving an up or down vote and saying no? What would be wrong with that?
In my view, nothing, and I think that would be the way to go, right? I mean, I've heard conservatives say, look, why not just, Republicans control the Senate, right? So why not just send this guy's name to committee, have him passed out of committee, if he can get out of committee, presumably, then go to the full Senate to vote, and the full Senate, which is Republican-controlled, can vote him down, and that's that, and Republicans, Obama's point will be sort of crushed, and Republicans still don't have to seat Justice Garland. I think the problem for Republicans is twofold. One, they see themselves as having been put in place in 2010 and 2014, getting control of the Congress from Tea Party voters who said, we don't want any negotiating, dealing, compromising with the Obama administration, number one.
Yeah.
And number two is that I think they realize that if they let Senator Garland get to the point of a hearing that's on cable, that's on C-SPAN, and people see he's this nice, mild-mannered, middle-of-the-road guy who's been a prosecutor and a judge, and even if they don't agree with all of his positions, is basically a mild-mannered, reasonable, rational, smart Harvard Law guy, that the public might be, why not put him on the Supreme Court? And then what do?
Lindsey Graham's theory on this is you better be careful because if Hillary wins, they're just going to nominate somebody completely liberal.
Yeah, they're making a gamble, right? This is like going all in at the card table, right? They're saying we are counting on winning the White House back in November, one way or the other, so that a presumably Republican president in 2017 will nominate someone friendly to the Republican Congress. If Hillary Clinton winds up being president, all bets are off.
Tell me, though, I'm hearing some rumblings that let's say Hillary wins in November, that they could quickly move and confirm him before Hillary takes office.
I hadn't heard that. I suppose they could, but that's that's a very narrow window. Two, we've seen throughout the Obama era, right, how tricky it is for them to get everybody wrangled together around Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And congressmen notoriously don't like to be there. They want to go home to their districts and their constituents and their families. But in theory, I suppose that it's possible. Although at that point, I think they will still wind up basically conceding a loss to President Obama, even if it's in sort of hindsight in the rearview mirror.
Well,
right?
we are so polarized right now, and this is a political move. Clearly, do you like the strategy? Because you're going to. I mean, those that support Republicans and support the conservative agenda are going to be absolutely okay with this, and the rest of the country will not be. We don't move anything here. Do you think? Does anything move? Do we change anyone's opinion based on this?
No, I really think we don't, and I think that the danger for President Obama here, right, is that this might sort of cement the idea that he's a lame duck and that at this point we're just in a holding pattern and he's not going to get anything more done. I'm not clear right now how worried the White House is about that perception. The danger for Republicans, I see, is a little deeper, as you say, because one, if Clinton wins the election, then Republicans just have a come-to-Jesus moment anyway and say, look, we've lost the popular vote in 6 out of the last 7 elections, and we've lost 4 out of the last 7 presidential elections, and it's time to clearly rethink a few strategic things among the Republican Party at a national level. If just in terms of the seating Judge Garland or another judge, though, I guess their calculation is, look, if you're a Republican member of the Senate, if you've seen what's happened the last 6 years, Bill, you're saying if we go squishy, our base voters are going to say, no, we need to primary these guys because they're not conservative, and that's what they want to avoid. They want to stay in office just like everybody. They want their jobs just like everybody else.
I couldn't help, though, but while watching Judge Garland yesterday, he's tearing up. He's talking about his family, and this is such a great honor. And you couldn't help but say, okay, this is never going to happen. He's a smart guy. He knows that. Does he end up being the victim in all this?
Well, I think the White House probably, I haven't done the reporting on this myself, but I've got to imagine that one of the reasons his name emerged instead of some of the other names like Jane Kelly and Sri Srinivasan, who were talked about a lot more on cable news, is that Judge Garland probably was one of the people who was willing to sort of walk out on the plank with the possibility that this was his last stand and he wouldn't make it. I mean, you're in a very, very prestigious position already. He's the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. That's already one of the most elite judicial positions in the land. He's 63, so he's older than some of these other people whose names were floated around, so he's kind of closer to the end of his career. He's had a very respected career as a prosecutor and a judge, so maybe he just said, look, it's an honor to be nominated by the President of the United States, and let the chips fall where they may. And if that's the case, I give him credit.
Yeah, interesting stuff. David Swerdlick, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Christine with an update right now, 7:46.